So let's talk about the pros and the cons with this game in particular, because I really like this game. This game is really fun. It's a really fun game. So the pros are solid gameplay. And what am I talking about specifically that makes it solid gameplay? It really does do a great job of rewarding neutral. So neutral is a strong focus in the game. Strong focus on neutral. It also has some of the best system mechanics I've seen in a fighting game, where it's very freeform. It is a little demanding. There's no doubt about that, especially the feint system. It's definitely a little demanding. However, once you master that with one character, the universal mechanics apply to all characters. The characters have their own unique strengths and weaknesses and gimmicks that make them unique, definitely there. But the universal mechanics apply to everyone. So the universal mechanics are just really well done in a way that feels intuitive and is not that complicated once you wrap your head around it. The first time you're dealing with it, it seems like a lot of mechanics, but once you get it down, it's pretty straightforward. So good, simple, I wouldn't even say simple, good, focused system mechanics. Another element that makes the game really good is that it is the game has a very like old school fighting-esque mind games, where the mind games in the game are very simple. It's a simple way of doing mind games, where a lot of modern fighting games have a lot of situations where you have to guess multiple options. Usually it's like you have to deal with so many decision making, and a lot of times the games offer you like major plus frames, so you're always guessing. You know, in what I mean by like that is like whether it's Street Fighter or Tekken, they allow you to close in the gap in a way where after you close the gap and you hit them, you end up being more plus even if they block it, and that forces a read on the opponent, where a move typically like that usually is risky initially, and then the reward is landing the move. By landing the move, you usually get a reward. That's usually how traditional fighting games used to work. Landing the move that is risky offers you the reward, and thus you end up getting the mix option. But in modern fighting games currently, between Street Fighter and Tekken, that we see is that a lot of fighting games offer you both, where you can do a move that's risky but reduce the risk to nothing, plus get plus frames, which kind of like creates an overwhelming mental stack in the game. In this game, it's so much simpler. It's simple but effective mind games. And so how does that differ from games like Street Fighter? Street Fighter, like I mentioned before, has like drive rush or anything like that, where it offers like plus frame advantages, where the moment you drive rush and you hit someone, you are plus. In this game, the knockdown is the reward. Landing the knockdown in this game is super duper rewarding. That's where you get your advantage frames, because then you can either force a meaty option, or the person has to guess between overhead or low with the hop mechanics. So basically, the reason why hops are so dangerous in this game is because it allows an immediate reaction on the opponent to overhead block. And if they do block the overhead, it's still your turn. But you have the threat of a low short. The low attack creates an inherent 50-50, or the throw mix. So you have a very simple but straightforward rock paper scissors game in the neutral. Landing the first blow and causing the first knockdown offers you the mix opportunity, and it allows you to create like a momentum in the game that way. While the moment you break the momentum and it goes back to neutral, it doesn't feel like you have to like skip across or just get plus frames off in neutral. You have to work towards the neutral fight first and then get the rewards for it afterwards. So it's simple but effective, because you're forced to think about that. But it's not so overwhelming. Now, there's other mechanics like cross-ups, you know, command grabs and stuff like that you have to worry about as well. But it's so straightforward that it's not that complex. It reminds me a lot of how Killer Instinct's combat is really, really old school, because it really just focuses on that very simple premise. The moment whoever wins the neutral fight provides the immediate benefits of a mind games. Additionally, damage in this game is high, but not too high. This is my biggest reason why I like this game. My biggest gripe with Street Fighter 6 is the damage in the game is extraordinarily high, even for moves that are not that risky. And that, to me, is very frustrating with the game, because the first 2 rounds are fantastic, but by the 3rd round, both players have enormous resources that it is really, really penalizing to get like just 1 or 2 reads wrong. In this game, you usually have about 3 to 4, and maybe 5. There are certain cases where you can get 3 reads, but it's really circumstantial, and it requires enormous risk exposure, or you're just playing really like exposed in order to get those situations. And obviously the meters have to line up in a certain situation, so you can absolutely dish out really high damage, but honestly, you're not getting that much, because managing the meter requires you to assess risk in the game. Because if you burn your meter too quickly, you risk, you know, not having access to that for a really long time. And even though games like Street Fighter 6 have a similar system with its drive gauge, the thing is that the drive gauge recovers really quickly in that game, so you don't feel as threatened by burning meter. And the plus frames that you get from initially burning meter is just so rewarding. So it feels more balanced. Personally, I think that it's really balanced in that way. I'm sure that we will see characters later on in the game's life cycle where the game has really good characters that exploit extreme situations. So I'm sure that we'll see that later. Definitely, you know, meta characters that will show up later. At the very least, definitely like low tiers that will definitely feel irrelevant. What's another strength? Let's see. Strong focus on neutral. Good focus systems. Simple but effective mind games. High damage but not too high. I could point out like style, art style, all that stuff, but I'm not going to include that in the solid gameplay option. I think I'll start with just that for now until more things come to mind. Again, good. I would also keep in mind that when I say good focused system mechanics, I'm also talking about like the overall system mechanics in terms of like supers, the rev meter, the rev system in general, all that. Obviously, visuals. Its art style is very striking. Which helps a lot. Honestly, it's got a great art style, and it really helps define the genre distinctly in modern fighting games today, because a lot of modern fighting games are looking for a very high graphical fidelity, which is good and all, but this game opts in for a more stylized approach, which is really nice. It feels more similar and akin to fighting games back in the 90s, and when sprite art, like sprite art style used to be the norm in fighting games, and which is, you know, it's not to say that this is equivalent to it, but it reminds me of that a little bit in comparison. What's another great thing about it? Sound design is great. So instead we'll call it visuals, we'll call it I don't know what you call it. Presentation. Sound design is great. Music is great. Come on now. Music is great. It's not like the most fabulous music, but it's definitely good music where you feel really engaged. It's good music, and it's very on brand, and it has a very distinct style to it with the jazziness to it that feels really cool. Definitely feels like a sort of Rumble in the Bronx kind of vibe to it, and that's really cool. So we'll start with that as another solid pro. Let's talk about the network. What's a good thing about the network? The rollback netcode is working. It is working, and I played people up to like 200 millisecond to almost 300 millisecond, and it is tolerable, which is exactly what it should be doing. You never want to play against someone above 200 milliseconds. It's a bad match, but it should be at the very least bearable and tolerable. I personally don't like fighting matches above like 150, which helps a lot. That at the very least you can at least play with people from South America, because this game is gonna be very popular in South America. KOF games typically are. SNK games are typically very popular in South America, so you can at least play against players out in South America, which is more than I can say of King of Fighters 15. Unfortunately, King of Fighters 15's rollback netcode is not great against people playing in South America. It's almost intolerable, and it's because the game is extremely fast. Oh, I will put this in solid gameplay, as a matter of fact. Speed is exciting, but not too fast. Say rollback netcode works beyond 200 milliseconds. I would say works is not the right word. Functional is a better word. It's functional. I wouldn't say it works, because I'm going to come back to the cons about that later. So rollback netcode is functional beyond 200 milliseconds. It's not great. It's definitely, there are better online infrastructures and they can invest more, and we'll talk more about that later down the road. For now, I think that's what we'll start with, that since this is a closed beta. Those are my pros so far about the game. There's a lot of pros about the gameplay, a lot of pros about this presentation. I can only give one pro about the rollback netcode. That's about it. Let's get to the cons. All right. So, since we're just talking about netcode, let's talk about why the network has some serious problems. Problem number one, the lobby system. The lobby system in this game is old and outdated. This is not good. I do not like this lobby system. I was tired of this lobby system back in 2008. When like 2008, 2010. When was it that Street Fighter 4 came out? Was it 2012? Whenever Street Fighter 4 came out, I was done with this lobby system. And then, you know, a bunch of those games in that era start coming out with many of those same lobby systems. This lobby system is not good. If you are not going to have a free roaming lobby system like, you know, Street Fighter or Tekken or any other kind of like free form lobby system, even Guilty Gear Strive, I don't like Guilty Gear Strive's lobby system that much, but it's at least more free form than this. Those are better than this, in my personal opinion. There's a bit more engagement, and it's a little easier once you learn the functionality to do it. Now, I get they wanted to go for something simple, something that's just pretty straightforward, gets you into a game, gets you out of a game, and it shouldn't be complicated for the eyes to understand. But it's also not very engaging. It's also not very impressive to look at. It's really boring to look at screens. And that's a bit of a problem. Another issue at hand that I have is the training mode. Not available during searching for matches. I'm typing too fast. The reason why training mode is not good to not have during searching for matches is, and I talk about this all the time, there should be no reason when you're searching for matches that you are not doing something, whether that be training mode, wandering around in a lobby, or getting involved in a social engagement, or playing a mini game. You should always have something to do while you're searching for games, and there's no reason for any modern fighting game to not have this problem. Street Fighter 6 is, like, in my opinion, has the best online infrastructure I've seen so far on a fighting game, and it's fantastic. However, it has one major flaw, which is you can't search into matches while you're doing World Tour mode. That, to me, is a huge missed opportunity. It's still something they could fix, but for people that think that it's not possible to do something like that, I don't think that is the case. You can absolutely do it. They just chose not to. Games like the fighting game Capcom Collection allow you to play different fighting games and queue for other fighting games, because then, like, if you play, you know, Street Fighter 2 on this game and play Capcom versus, you know, Marvel versus Capcom on the other, you can search for matches on Marvel versus Capcom while you're playing Street Fighter 2. You can do that in that game. So you can do that in any format of any modern fighting game. It is possible. You should always be preoccupied with something. Waiting in a lobby and waiting for your next turn is not a great way to keep engagement. It's a great way to lose people's focus, because nothing is more boring than staring at a screen with nothing to do. And it shouldn't be like that. There should be something better. It's old, it's outdated, and it's gonna have a hard time appealing to a lot of casuals because of that. Casuals are very short attention span, especially today's, like, gaming circus. It's really hard to capture the audience for more than, like, 5 minutes. And if they're waiting 5 minutes in the lobby, you have a high probability of losing their interest. So no matter how engaging the matches are, they could lose their interest within 5 minutes. So have them do something while they're waiting. See here, training mode not available during searches. Lobby system is old and outdated. Rank mode. So rank mode has only one rank. What I mean by that is that per player, not character. I really don't like having a rank system that is universal to all of your characters. I think that rank mode should be per character, not per player. I understand that they don't want new players being bullied by experienced players. The easiest solution is, and it's not a perfect solution, but the easiest solution to fill in that gap is that the moment that you climb a certain rank, you break a certain threshold with that one character, the rest of your characters rank up with them by, like, a certain percentage points. So that way, like, if they go up 5 ranks, all the other characters go up 2 or 3 ranks. So that way you slowly segment the new players away from everybody else. Having only one rank for all characters is not only good because it disincentivizes people from being creative and learning new characters and being matchmaked accordingly to their actual character roster, to the characters they're playing as, but it'll also prevent people from wanting to play other characters and grow with them, because they'll be so so focused on their rank than actually, like, learning new characters. It kills character enthusiasm with learning new characters. It's just not a good idea. There's a reason why a lot of modern fighting games don't do that nowadays. So that's a bit of a problem. Another issue at hand is okay, let's talk about the rollback netcode. Below 180 seconds. So I noticed this pattern so far, at least from my experience, and this is a weird issue to have in this game. From my experience so far, the netcode for this game is somewhat functional against anyone with 200 milliseconds or beyond. It's functioning the way it should. But for some reason, anyone below 180 milliseconds, it's not functioning right. I don't know why. It almost seems like when you're closer to your opponent, it can't handle the online netcode. It chugs not harder than 200 milliseconds, but it chugs if you fight someone that's 90 milliseconds away, it should play super smooth. Yet for some reason, you will get 1 to 2 dropped frames and 2 frames of rollback. That should be 0 dropped frames and maybe 1 rollback. And while rollback, functioning at 200 milliseconds and above will do 4 dropped frames and 4 rollback or something like that, it's within the tolerable enough range that you can put up with. It's for maybe for a lot of average players, they're not going to put up with that and they don't like that, but this is absolutely unacceptable. When I play against people against 180 or below, the netcode isn't functioning great. That's not good. They need to tighten up the netcode a little bit more, and they have 2 months left in time, so they have time to fix the netcode. But they don't have time to fix the lobby system or the training system. Let's also talk about why it's really not a great idea to have a we are judging this purely based off the beta, right? And this is a beta criticism. Beta doesn't come with training mode intact. I think I know why. I think this has something to do with the Street Fighter 6 controversy of the crack beta, which is completely understandable. I think that this is something I've warned a lot of people about that could end up happening, is that the developers will begin to strip features or just not release closed betas or open betas to the public because of the way that people crack it. Now, it's unavoidable. It's just the nature of it. So training should come intact in this. I understand that they're afraid that training mode may be negatively affecting their professional scene. They don't want someone to crack it. But here's the thing: you can still train with characters like Rock. Even if it isn't your preferred character, it's still something that can work. And personally, I think this is just not a very good consumer practice. It's possible that they may be concerned about the idea of players not playing the actual beta online for the online stress testing, which makes sense. They want people to play the online stress testing so they can get the most amount of feedback. But people that are training fiends, they're very, very few, to a point at where there's I would bet there's only if you put 100 people in there, I bet there's less than 4. That's how little the number is. It's so inconsequential that training mode should come with the beta. It should. For all characters should be able to use the training mode. I don't see why they didn't include it. That's a bit of a con with it. What's another element that's negative about this game? We got plenty of pros, cons. Let's see here. Oh, that's right. The feint system. All the other mechanics are fantastic, but this one. The feint system is awesome. I love the feint system. Till I don't. And what I mean by that is that the feint is an awkward button. Now, I talk about this a lot in my games, which is when I'm playing a fighting game, the most important thing about a fighting game should be that it's intuitive. It should be easy to play, but difficult to master. Take, for example, Tekken. Tekken has a 4-button layout. Left punch, left kick, right kick. And then use various combinations of those button inputs. The complexity of the game is learning the system mechanics and learning how to exploit those system mechanics to its full potential. That's the skill ceiling in the game. But to hit buttons in the game is really easy. You just hit a button and you do cool shit. Now, this game does the same thing. However, it does it except for every input but one. The feint. The feint in this game is awkwardly placed, whether you're using controller or whether you're using a stick. It just feels awkward, and it reminds me a little bit of 2XKO. 2XKO has the same issue, or has a 5-button layout. I like my button layouts either being 4 or 6. 5 is such an awkward number, and the reason for that is that when you combine the 5th one with any of the other ones, it feels very displaced. So what ends up happening is that when you press these 2 buttons, like typically if you're playing on a fight stick, for example, it's not uncommon for you to miss it entirely. Now, some may say that's a skill gap issue, and that's helps elevate the skill level. Skill gap should never be created off of an awkward input. Skill gap should be created off of precision, knowledge, and consistency, never off of awkwardness. If the inputs are awkward, that's not a good thing. That means the gameplay design is flawed, and its simple solution is create a 6 button, create a feint button. That is a simple solution. If they create a feint button, it will make it significantly easier. At the very least, include a macro in the actual like move list, or in the system requirements, so you can just add the macro when you're customizing your controls. It is very annoying to screw up a feint, not because it's difficult to do, but because it is just awkward and it feels weird. It is the only button in this game, the only gameplay mechanic in this game that is flawed. It is just the feint system. It is my biggest complaint, next to the online infrastructure, which is like the lobby systems and the training mode and the rank mode and the rollback not being the most functional thing in the world. It's somewhat functional, but not great. This is without a doubt the thing that just irks me the most, but it's so easy to fix. So I'm, out of all these things right here, I am more concerned about these things than I am with this. This can be fixed later down the road. This can be fixed with an update, whether the game, when it releases, or they update the game later. I am not very concerned about this overall. It is a complaint, but it's a stupid complaint, but it's stupid because it exists. These ones are far more important. They need to be addressed very quickly. You cannot have an old lobby system like this in today's gaming. It's not great. Some people may not care. Old heads that are as old as me or older, they won't care, but your average young kid is not going to like this. They're gonna find their attention span is going to go to other things, and that is not good for the game. Training mode, not available for searches. Now that could be changed on the game's initial release, and it could be just a beta thing. I doubt it. The way that the online infrastructure is structured with the casual match searching and the ranked match searching makes me think that you can only do it through the main menu screen, which is really bad. You should be able to practice how to play the game while you're waiting for a match. There's no reason for that to be existing. Rank mode only has 1 per character. This one's just a personal preference thing. A lot of people may not have a problem with this. That's fine if you don't have an issue with it. I do. I personally don't like this, so it's a personal preference thing. I just don't think it's good. So I can't really harp on that one too much. Rollback netcode, this is a horrible issue. It should be even more functional. It is somewhat functional. It's doing what it should be doing, and the games are playable, but they could be better, and they should be better, because the reason why no rollback netcode is so allotted currently is not because of how well it plays at 200 milliseconds. All games at 200 milliseconds and above are not great, but all games should be great below 150 milliseconds at least. They should all be really good matches, and you should only see a few dials of rollback, and you should not be seeing dropped frames at like 150. You should be having a very smooth play session. That's the purpose of it. 150 might be a little over ambitious, but it should be working as good. I've had matches at 60 to 70 milliseconds, and it's dropping 2 frames and rollbacking 3. That makes no sense. Let's see here. What else? I can't comment on any of the tutorial or training systems currently, aside from what I've seen in the beta so far, so I'm going to reserve that. overall, this is a really good beta. The game is fantastic. I'm excited to play it. I know I stated a lot of cons, but here's the thing. I'm stating a lot of cons because these are things that can be fixed, and I'm coming down pretty hard on it because I really want the game to succeed. It's not coming from a negative Nancy kind of point of view. I just want the game to have a strong player base so I can play this game for a long time. That's what I want. I want to be able to play this game with a lot of different people. And these things I can see creeping into the game's life cycle, becoming a big problem. Now, here's the thing. If this stuff launches without this, they need to update it soon and quickly to add this stuff, because that is not going to go well over the long term of the game's life cycle. Especially with a lot of competition out there right now with fighting games. A lot of fighting games right now have some good online infrastructure now. You know, Killer Instinct's got a good online infrastructure. Both Granblue has good online infrastructure. I haven't even played it, but I've seen people play it online. It plays just fine. Tekken has a really good online infrastructure. It's not perfect, but it's definitely pretty good for a 3D fighting game. Virtua Fighter Revo, not great, but still pretty good. Better than this at the very least. Street Fighter 6 has probably the best one, and Guilty Gear Strive has some of the best ones I've ever seen. That said, you know, are all those games like fantastic netcodes? No, but they're better than this. Way better. Way better. So they need to address those things. Yeah. So that's my general I've put over 12 hours now into this game between my personal playtime, my online sessions. So I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp of the online game, like the ecosystem of the game. I just want these things to be fixed. Just these cons. These are fixable cons. Hopefully they do it aggressively on launch or before the game launches, so that way they don't become a hindrance to the game, because you want to have a strong impression when the game releases. It's really important to have a strong impression, especially today. But yeah, that's my current impression of the beta. Overall, fantastic game, and I'm looking forward to playing more of it over the next several days. That said, we are going to end the stream tonight, and the reason why is I'm getting freaking tired, and I want to spend some time with my wife. 5 hours is a good stream time, so I'm very proud of that, and being able to put a lot of time into this game, putting up some pretty good matches, having some good fun. This game is fantastic. I highly recommend it to play it, people. It's a great newcomers game. It seems overwhelming, but once you, like, if you sit with the game for like maybe 6 hours, it starts to make sense pretty quick. At the very least, you will understand to some degree, you know. So, and hopefully when the game launches, its single player content does a great job of teaching people how to play the game. You know, that's really important. So yeah, I want to thank you all for joining me today. All of you that hanged out means the world to me. Those of you that you commented, thank you guys so much. Big fan of the fact that everyone came out to hang out, whether you're on TikTok or on Twitch. Thank you so much. You're a fantastic streamer. Your stream is engaging and enjoyable. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I try. But yeah, this is where we call it quits for the day. Thank you all. I'll see you all at the next stream. Goodbye.